Hello, this is Larry Burden. I'm the Leadership Liaison for the International Fellowship of Chaplains. Wanted to take a moment here and just share a story with you that I believe would be a great encouragement to you. The setting of the story is actually World War II. It's December of 1944. The Allied forces had just invaded Europe on D-Day, June the 6th of 1944. And the setting here in this story is in London. Many of you know that during the war, London was continually bombed by the Nazis, and so it was a very dangerous place to be. But there are a group of soldiers who came together on Christmas Eve in London, and they were missing their families, and they were missing the joyful Christmases that they all usually spent at home with their families. And so they decided to go outside the bunker where they were and see if there was just somewhere they could go, maybe someone they could find, and just celebrate somehow Christmas. And so they did. They got out of the bunker, they began to walk the streets of London, and soon after they began their walk, they came up to a building. It was, they said, a dark gray-looking building. And on the side of the building was a sign that said Queen Anne's Orphanage. And so they paused, looked at one another, and says, well, let's check it out. So they went to this door of the orphanage. They knocked on the door, this old gray-looking door. And the lady inside opened the door. It was kind of a creaky opening when she did, and she kind of very, very carefully popped her head out. And they introduced themselves to her and said, ma'am, said, we're soldiers from certain battalion, and we're just out wanting to just do something for someone for Christmas, and we just thought maybe we might come in and maybe visit with your orphans. And she said, oh, please do come in. And so when they walked into the building, they were shocked at the condition. The building was dark, it was cold. They heard the feet of orphans running down the stairwells, and when they looked at these children that came down to see these soldiers who wanted to come and encourage them, they had tattered clothes, and they were not well kept. They were not well fed, and clearly the soldiers were moved with compassion by the scene that unfolded. So immediately they came and they kind of knelt down before the kids, and they said, we've just come today just to cheer you up. It's Christmas Eve, and so we just wanted to come and wish you a Merry Christmas. And they began to reach into their pockets and maybe pull out a stick of gum, or pull out a candy bar, or pull out a ribbon or some kind of medal to just give these children as a gift to just celebrate Christmas. And it was a really, really joyous time that took place in the orphanage. The children were just so blessed and excited, and the soldiers were feeling really good about themselves. They're like, wow, look what we did. We did something good, and we really helped to bring some joy and laughter into the lives of unfortunate children that clearly had lost their families, and maybe society now had put away into this orphanage. And so as they finished their visit and hugged all the kids, they began to make their way out of the orphanage. But as they were making their way out, one of the soldiers noticed in the corner a little boy who was standing in the corner in the dark. And so the soldier paused, and he walked over to this little boy. And I want to read it right out of the story, the way it was really told. He says he went over and he knelt down on one knee to this little boy, and he could look at the boy in the eyes, and he knew as he looked at this little boy, he saw his little boy that was also 5 years old that lived in America. And he thought what a different time his son was having as opposed to this little boy in London. And while he was sad because he could not be with his own child, he was moved with compassion because he was with this little boy. And as he began to look at this whole scenario, his tears began to well up in his eyes. And then when the little boy saw the tears in the soldier's eyes, his eyes began to tear up as well. And so the soldier looked at this little guy and he said, hey, little fella, what would you like for Christmas? And without hesitation, the little boy looked at him, took a step forward, and simply said, hold me. Hold me tight. And I thought, wow, what an amazing gift. of all the things that those kiddos that they came and loved on and laughed with and gave little gifts to, they all had a wonderful time. But there was something more special to this little guy than all of the gum and the candy bars and the fun and laughter. All he wanted was someone to just hold him and bring security into his life. So when I hear this story, I think about chaplaincy. I think about the heart of the chaplain and how we are put into situations where we are to become light and salt to those who have needs, no matter what those needs are. For this little kiddo, it was for someone who looked like could be his own father to put his arms around him and just hold him, to bring security to his life, to bring stability into clearly the trauma that he must have endured in the war-torn zones of London, and then to be ripped apart from his family and placed into an orphanage with strangers. And so here is this man, this soldier, that he looks at and says, I think you remind me of my dad. Would you just hold me? And so we oftentimes find ourselves in those situations where we walk in, and sometimes the greatest thing we can do and the greatest gift we can give is just to put our arms around someone and just hold them and let them know it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. So I just encourage you with that today. You're amazing chaplains. You do amazing jobs, and you have such a heart to help people no matter where they are, no matter what they're going through. But never doubt the importance of the simple things that we bring to the table that means so much to people when they're going through trauma, when they're going through a hard time, when they're going through difficulty. A kind word, a hand on the shoulder, or maybe just a warm hug. Hold me tight. Brings such comfort and such security and such strength. So I bless you today. I thank you for all that you are and for all that you do to bring love and kindness to mankind. So God bless you and keep up the good work.